Welcome to the Expert Network Team podcast.
I might start right here. I'm doing the intro.
I think Jeff's projecting a little. He's the one that's not prepared.
Oh, I'm totally not prepared. You guys, I'm just the pretty face.
That does not take much, given
Seriously.
given the crowd.
You guys have radio faces. I'm here.
I've got the softener feature on, and then I do use beef tallow every day. So
It does look good, Nate.
I can't use the softening feature, Nate. I just look like a Barbie, like I'm made of plastic with my big bald head on Zoom. I got to be careful with it.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Carl Frank, your host of the Expert Network Team. And with me today, we've got the whole team. We've got Nate Merrill remote. How are you, Nate?
I'm terrific.
You, in spite of your looks, you look fantastic, my friend. Always.
How's the Western Slope, Nate?
The Western Slope is amazing. It's a beautiful day out here. I'm sure you guys had a nice day in Denver, but
It was beautiful.
Do you want to do a tourism plug real quick? Like, Chamber of Commerce?
best mountain biking in Colorado. The Colorado National Monument is the best kept secret of Colorado. If you haven't done it and you reside in Colorado, come out here and hike and bike the Colorado National Monument. Fishing galore. We got the Colorado River, the Dolores, skiing up at Snowmass. Like, I don't know why more people don't live out here. No traffic.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Awesome.
Thanks, man.
That was pretty good. Have you been practicing that?
I have mentioned it to a few folks who do look at me sideways and say, why did you move to Grand Junction?
It is beautiful out there. Jeff Cromendike, how are you?
I am great. Carl, thank you for having me back. I thought I got voted off the island there for a bit, but doing some traveling and I'm glad to be here. So thanks for having me.
It's good to have you.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
Catch up on the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And our
Appreciate it.
special guest, Chad Harmon.
Oh,
partner, friend.
Live and in color.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Special
Chad
in so
is-
many ways.
Absolutely. Chad is a partner at A&I Wealth Management, and he's a good friend, and he's an expert on Social Security. And in today's world, I just thought we needed some good news about Social Security because the rumor mill has it it's going away. But the truth is that it sounds like it's getting better for a certain number of people, and maybe some of our listeners can benefit. So
Absolutely. I think that's the case.
maybe we'll just start with what's happening, and then guys, you fire away. I already know some of what's going on, but Chad is the expert at our company, so I'll learn something today too.
Welcome to the pod, Chad.
Thank you.
Good to have you, brother.
Good to be here, Jeff. So what's happening? So what's in the news is some new legislation that was passed at the beginning of this year. In January 5th of 2025, the Biden administration passed the Social Security's Fairness Act. And this was something that was getting bounced around in Congress for multiple years, had bipartisan support. So actually an example of, both sides of the aisle agreeing on something, which is hard to find these days. But it means that everybody's on board and thinks it's a pretty good idea, which is good. And it's going to affect a lot of us. The best guess is about 2.5 to 3 million Americans are going to receive an increase in what they're able to pull out of Social Security. And the result of these changes is going to be twofold. The first is going to be increased monthly payments for people currently receiving Social Security, either their own benefit or a spousal benefit. And the second is going to be a lump sum payment that they're going to receive for retroactive payments that they should have received for 2024. And so although we just passed the legislation, the start date of this is going to be January 1 of 2024. So really two different areas people are going to see an increase to their bank account, the lump sum and the monthly.
That's a big number. 2.5 million to 3 million people.
It's a huge number. The majority of those are folks that are being affected by what's called the windfall elimination period, or WEP. A smaller number will be the ones that are currently getting hit with the government pension offset, or I'll refer to that as the GPO.
So who are the people that didn't get Social Security in the past?
Yeah, so if you think about who was hurt by, I'll focus first on WEP. Think of that as your own benefit. Okay. And I think of it as our heroes. You know, these are our first responders, our police, firefighters, our teachers and administrative staff around the schools, really people that are paying into a public pension system rather than Social Security. And the entire goal of the reason why the WEP was implemented is because the government didn't want people to, quote unquote, double dip into the system where they're receiving both a pension payment from a non-covered employer like a school district or a firefighter or police pension. And they're also receiving Social Security. So in a situation where you had two income streams coming in, they were going to discount one of those. And in many cases, it was pretty substantial. When you look at the GPO, that's going to be primarily the spouses. So it's going to be people that are married to someone working in the public sector, married to a cop, married to a teacher, and their spouse's pension is affecting what they're able to get from Social Security. So those are the two biggies on who's really going to benefit from these changes that are coming down the pipe.
And so they'll be able to get their own Social
Was that a
Security.
legacy thing? Like, how long was it functioning that way before this change?
Yeah, I think it was the late 70s that we put the WEP and GPO into place. It might not have gone into effect till the early 80s, but it's been around for 40 going on 50 years.
So how far then back is this lump sum? I assume the lump sum is like making up payments, you said, but it only looks back to last year?
It is. It's only going to go back starting January 1, 2024.
Okay.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's not like they're
anyone
making
that
good on the prior 3 decades. They're just making
exactly.
good year.
Yeah. And I mean, at a certain point, anytime you're increasing Social Security benefits, that's weakening the solvency of the system. You know, the more we're paying out, the less long the money's going to last. And so you got to kind of have a balancing act there. But I think the changes that they're making over the next 10 years are going to increase Social Security payments to Americans by close to $200 billion.
Wow. Over 10 years.
Over the next 10 years. That's a big number, but they think that that'll only, when you look at how long they think Social Security will be solvent for, they think that that's speeding up the clock by about 6 months.
Oh, wow. So that's not very much.
So it sounds worse when you list it as 200 billion, but 6 months, not a major change.
6 months.
So they're not borrowing from somewhere else to make up this delta. It really just literally is shortening the life of Social Security, which what's our estimate right now, Chad? I mean, what's being thrown out there with regards to Social Security and its longevity if something doesn't change?
Yeah, well, right now, I think that what we're looking at is a runway up until, do you know the year?
Maybe 2030, something like that.
2031, 2032, I think. And then at that point, they'll be able to pay out about 83% of the current benefits is the best estimate.
We'll find the exact number, put in the liner notes.
Then you'll put that in my plan, Carl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Our plan involves, let's not depend on that.
That's a good plan.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Good
that'd
work.
be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be good. Let's not plan on
It's interesting because I've got some numbers I'll share with you as far as the average amount of increase we could expect different groups of people to see. And those numbers are meaningful, but they're not gigantic. But I will give you maybe a case study to show you how big of an impact this could have on particular families. So it's important that people understand what's going on. The good news is they're attempting to make this kind of fail-proof in that there is not an actionable step people that are going to be receiving an increase are going to need to take. It's going to be done automatically.
Really?
Yeah. And those benefits are going to start being paid out as early as April.
Wow.
So Crackpot Producer here has informed me that the Social Security Trust Fund is projected to deplete by 2035, at which point, without legislative intervention, i.e. bailout, they would have to reduce benefits to 77% of scheduled benefits.
Very good. Well, we trust Crackpot Producer.
There you have
Oh,
it.
is that
We got a
Chad
decade.
GPT or I'm not familiar with him.
That's
Sorry.
yes, that is our Crackpot Producer, because we don't have a producer, you know that.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, I just looked on chat. That's what chat says, and the source there is Axios and Wikipedia. across.
And
the board.
any Social Security statement that you can find on askbackwards.gov, that's SSA.gov.
Are we cracking jokes or is that the real deal?
That's the real
No
website.
way.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, you can't make this stuff
You can't
up.
make up government acronyms.
So now-
No, they're better than you'd ever think.
Now we can talk about the positives. Now that we know that none of us are actually going to collect Social Security, how about those people who are, Chad?
Yeah, so for the people currently collecting that are being affected by the windfall elimination period, the best guess is that on average, they're going to receive about a $360 a month increase to their check every
That's
single
pretty
month.
big, right?
Yep, starting in April.
That's 4 or 5 thousand a year.
Which
And
is
this
meaningful.
just for that demographic that you described earlier.
Exactly right. These are people that have paid into a public pension system, okay, and are also receiving money from Social Security. And so they're going to get a $360 a month on average increase, as well as that lump sum check, which would be about $4,300. So a little bit of play money
Not bad.
moving forward for the year. For the folks that are affected by the government pension offset, the GPO is swings a bigger hammer, you know, and so their average increase is going to be almost double, about $700 a month that they'll be taking home on top of what they're used to, and their lump sum check is going to be closer to $8,500
on average.
to make up for last year. And then the group that really, I think, feels it the most are surviving spouses that are affected by the GPO. So their spouse has passed away. There's a public pension in place, and they're really getting hammered when it comes to the discount they take on their spousal benefits. Their monthly income is going to increase on average by about $1,200 a month, or a check for a little over 14 grand coming next month. So
not bad.
those are meaningful numbers. I think it's a lot
Right.
bigger than what people originally anticipated.
That's a pretty good deal.
Absolutely.
What's the history that brought this on? I mean, we got bipartisan support. That's like a act of Congress, right? So, like, what do you know any background, like why this finally kind of came to the surface?
You know, I don't, Jeff. I think I understand what the premise was when they originally put the legislation into place. And the issue is that for low income earners, when you're a low income earner, the bang for your buck you get by paying into Social Security, if you're only making 15, 20, 30 grand a year, you get that makes a huge impact to your Social Security check. For higher income earners that might be earning up to the maximum, you know, over 165 grand a year, 168,000, I think is the max. For those last couple dollars they earn, it makes very little impact to the Social Security system. And so if I'm a teacher and I'm earning a nice juicy pension and I've put my 30 years in, and in the summer I want to go work at an ice cream shop, okay, and make a couple grand on the side, that would have a major impact on what I may be able to pull out of Social Security. Okay, I'm going to show up as a very low income earner, okay, because I only have $10,000 of wages that are eligible for Social Security, and in reality, I'm not. I'm making a substantial income at the school, so that's why they started the WEP and the GPO to begin with. I think that nobody likes to feel like people are taking advantage of the system, but in reality, the result of getting rid of those two provisions is that people that do have lower incomes are going to be able to manipulate this and get a pretty juicy payout for a minimal amount of years or wages that they're putting into the system.
I think it seems fair. They pay into Social Security. They should get the benefit.
I think so too. Selfishly, my wife's a teacher. You know, I'm living in the reality of, you know, being affected by this, and I'm not complaining at all that we're going to be able to benefit from both.
Yeah, totally.
And Jeff, to your question, I just pulled up some of the data here on the bill. It was, I mean, maybe initially not as bipartisan as you might think, because the Senate co-sponsors were Sherrod Brown and Susan Collins. Susan Collins, not known to be a fiscal hawk, as it were. And Abigail Spangler, a Democrat from Virginia, was the initial sponsor in the House, and Garrett Graves of Louisiana was a Republican sponsor. I don't know Garrett all that well. However, by the time it passed, it had 323 co-sponsors in the House, which does indicate that there was strong bipartisan support, and 62 co-sponsors in the Senate by the end of its kind of duration. So the final vote was in the House was only 75 against, 327 in favor, 1 present. And then in the, that was 136 Republicans, 71 against, 191 Democrats, 4 against. So
A landslide.
Yeah.
and in the Senate, it was 76 in favor, 20 against. So some interesting, I mean, that is a good example of a truly bipartisan supported bill. Now I can suspect in there that it was likely that the whole, I don't know what the new caucus is, the conservative caucus probably all rebelled because they don't believe in spending another penny
That could be.
anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, that could be.
I don't want to.
But you don't want to make up words because they might have been like viewing it more or less like I do. Well, if I pay my Social Security taxes, I deserve to get Social Security benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that,
And
you know, it's a positive to run on. Again, if you're
Yeah,
looking at reelection later this year
in a couple of years.
support Medicare or not Medicare, but you support Social Security and seniors, and it's a good thing to vote. I'm the cynic again, going back to the
No.
to the
Absolutely.
last
And
podcast.
Well, I want to hear this planning idea you've got. How can I get the most out of this? Should I
Yeah.
quit my job and
Yeah, I was going to say, does that move your wife's pension or retirement date up?
It very well might. Like, and I think that when you talk about Social Security, it's the third rail of politics. Nobody will ever touch it. So anything you put through that's going to increase, dollars to every American's bank account is going to be widely accepted. In reality, the people that will benefit the most from these changes are the wealthier folks. They're the folks that are receiving or have earned their maximum Social Security payment, and they're married to somebody with a nice pension coming from one of these public entities. And so I'll give you a quick case study and then leave you with a couple planning ideas moving forward for the year. So this is going to be an example of who I think will really want to pay attention to the changes that they've made. So I'll use an example of a married couple, Ann and Bill. Okay, we'll pick on Nate. We'll say Ann's a lawyer. She's been working for 40 plus years, paying into Social Security. She's earned close to her maximum benefit of $4,000 a month. Okay, her husband Bill is a teacher. Okay, he's been teaching up at CU Boulder. He's retired now, and he's earned a pension of about $4,800 a month. So they've got a nice income, close to $9,000 coming in. Once they turn on Social Security, so Ann's got this $4,000 benefit. Okay, Bill, as her spouse, earns a spousal benefit whether or not he paid into the system. Okay, so in this example, Bill would be entitled to a $2,000 a month paycheck coming from Social Security.
half of the spouse?
Half of the spouse's FRA benefit. Their benefit at age, for most folks, about age 67. Okay, however, because Bill has this $4,800 pension coming in every month, the government pension offset will reduce his Social Security benefit, his spousal benefit, by up to 2/3 of the amount of his pension. Okay, so if he's getting $4,800 a month, $3,200 of that can wipe out his spousal benefit. And then in this case, $3,200 is more than the spousal benefit. It wipes it out completely.
Yeah, he would get nothing.
Now, 1 year later after we pass this legislation, they're both going to be able to retire. Bill will be able to collect his full pension, his full spousal benefit, which is going to increase the take-home income for that family by $2,000 a month. It's 23% increase in their take-home income. That's huge. And it gets even more lucrative if, God forbid, something were to happen to his spouse. If Ann were to pass away, let's use an example of Ann passing away a year ago in December of 23. Okay, Bill would then step into her larger benefit. He would be eligible to receive the full $4,000. The government pension offset would reduce that by 2/3 of his pension. The net result is $800 a month he would get on top of his pension. Okay, so his take-home income's $5,500. Okay, now he will be able to receive the entire $4,000 without any deduction. Okay, this is going to mean his take-home pay just went up by 57%. So that is a huge life-changing figure for a lot of Americans. And on top of that, he'll retroactively get paid for last year, right? So he's going to get a check for $38,400 for last year, and then an additional almost 3,200 more in income than he'd be getting today. So that's who's really benefiting from this, whether you like it or not. But in reality, everyone will see a little bit of bump in pay.
But it's executed automatically. Nobody has to do anything to make sure this happens. So how would you game this as a planner? In terms
Well,
of
in true government fashion, it looks like we're going to actually be having the dollars come in before the letter that is going to tell you that you're getting an increase in pay. So as early as the end of March, early April, what will happen is anybody that will benefit from this without taking action will just receive the increased amount direct deposited into their bank account on file. Okay. Lump sum and the future payments ongoing. You will receive a letter, actually probably two letters. One will notify you of the elimination of the WEP and the GPO. The next one will show you your additional benefit that you're going to be receiving. Folks could expect to see those checks in the mail in April or May. They got a lot on their plate right now, so if I'm a betting man, I'm choosing the latter on that time frame. But there are a few ways to take advantage of this, and things that I'm thinking about as a financial planner moving forward. One is that when you receive a lump sum payout from Social Security, even if you're getting that this year, you can choose to have that counted towards your income for the year in which it was earned. So if I'm getting a $30,000 check today and my income is a lot higher this year than it was last year, without refiling my tax return, I can actually push that 30 grand of income onto my 2024 tax return, hopefully saving a couple grand in taxes, which I think is pretty smart. It is going to vary on whether your income is higher this year or lower moving forward. I also think another way to game this, I think a lot of folks that are working for a school district or an entity like a first responder or a cop, they're very hesitant to take on additional work at a private company because they're going to receive little to zero benefit when it comes to retirement on what they're able to pull out. And I think that this is a pretty interesting one. So I'll use the example of my spouse. So she works hard 9 months out of the year and gets to go on summer break, right? And now she wants to go out and earn a little bit of extra spending money. And let's say she can earn 10 grand over the next couple of months. As long as your income is in this, over about 6 or 7 grand a year, whether you earn all the money in 1 month or equal payments over 12 months, Social Security doesn't care. You will earn 4 quarters of eligibility into the system by doing that. So if in this case she retires, let's say she's in her mid 50s and just kind of on cruise control waiting for me to join her in retirement, she could go work part-time for a month or two in the summer, okay, earn 10 grand a year, and at the end of that 10-year period when I finally retire, she would be able to pull almost $800 a month out of Social Security because 90% of what she's earning is going to be going towards her principal income amount. That's really the benefit that you're receiving from Social Security. So you'd need close to $250,000 of assets to be able to create that same income stream. So that gets me off my butt if I'm looking for a little bit of way to kill some free time and go make some nice spending money now. There's a huge honey pot, at the end of this rainbow that you can earn as long as you get, 10 years in the system. So I think that we're going to see a lot more of that moving forward because people are getting so much more bang for their buck when it comes to their time being spent.
So get a second job.
You just explained to me why we have such a solvent Social Security system. If it takes 1 month to get 4 quarters of credit, if I heard that right.
Isn't that interesting? In fact, what another way I could say that is the first 14 grand that you earn, okay, will have the same impact to your Social Security payment as somebody who's making $84,000 a year and doubles their income. So that extra 84 grand that they earn, they're going to get the exact same paycheck as somebody that just went out and made $14,000. So that's where these lower income earners can get back at the system and really take advantage of it.
Okay, so now I don't know if you're prepared to answer this question. What about folks like me who never want to retire? Like if I was a school teacher who wanted to work until I don't know if they can they work until they're 70 or 75 or?
You can work as long, yeah. You can work as long as you want, Nate. After age 70, your Social Security is not going to increase anymore, so there wouldn't be any reason why you wouldn't want to start drawing at age 70. However, if you're collecting Social Security and you take it early, let's say the first day you're eligible at age 62, okay, you are going to be penalized for making a certain amount of money each year. Okay, if you're making a little bit, not going to matter. But if you're still working and earning a decent wage, you don't want to turn on Social Security before your FRA age, which again for most of us is age 67. Once you hit 67, you could turn on your Social Security and go make $1 million a year, and it's not going to affect your Social Security payment one bit. So you can continue to work indefinitely and get your full Social Security payment as long as you've reached your FRA age.
And so maybe, Nate, your wife needs to get a job just for a few months a year, earn, what was the minimum, $6,000 a year, 10,000 a year, up to 14 a year, just for a little bit of work. And then she'll get 90 cents on the dollar.
That's right. That first 14,000 is where it's really lucrative. The next chunk isn't near as effective.
I'll go back to the earlier comment here that the Social Security Trust Fund will be depleted by the year 2035. So will probably not matter. I'm not, you know me, I'm just personally not banking on it. It's found money as far as I'm concerned if we get any of it. But I am curious. This is interesting because it does seem to impact more so that income or income progression limited group of people that are in public sector jobs like teaching and fire, where you don't have a hockey stick at the end of it. It's very kind of, you hit a ceiling in there, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. So you don't earn any money best. 167.
I think 160. Yeah, 168 is the last number I saw.
Okay.
That might have changed this year, but
but you definitely get the biggest bang at the lowest dollar.
Yeah, you know, nobody knows what they're going to do to fix it. I will say that when we talk about the year 2035, that it's not that the money's gone and Social Security ends. It's that we have less money coming into the coffers than is going out at that point. And so that's where they will have to interject. And a couple ways you can do that. You can kick the can down the curb as far as the age you're eligible to get certain benefits. And we've done that. We've seen the FRA age push back, which is in effect a reduction of Social Security benefits.
Sure.
Okay. We might start to see it means tested, being that if you have X amount of income a year, you're going to receive reduced amounts. So it almost becomes more of a welfare type system. I think that's likely something that we could see happen. But I think the easiest way to do it is go tax the rich, right? That's the lowest hanging fruit. So you hear that all the time. If right now, if I'm making 168 grand a year and Nate, you're making $1 million a year, we're paying the exact same amount into Social Security. And it would be very easy for them to pop the lid off and just say, there's no maximum. It doesn't matter how much you earn. You will continue to pay the same amount into the system, even if they're capping your benefit on the backside. So that is my prediction on what they would do to fix it. And all three of those examples would be pretty powerful as far as taking that 2035 date and moving it on down the road.
Well, just to tie this into the podcast that just dropped, I mean, the real problem becomes, and I agree that the most essential of all those solutions is raising the retirement age, because when the original retirement age was adopted, most people didn't actually get to retirement. They died before they reached retirement age. Now we're living 15 years on average beyond the typical retirement age, and that's what's causing the strain on the system. You listen to our podcast that dropped yesterday, real time, and we're going to be living to 150. That's going to present a real strain on the system if we get regenerative health in place and people can actually survive for a lifetime beyond retirement.
Jeff is like, no. Just like, no, thanks.
No, you're right. Nate, what was the original date? Does anybody know? Like how old was it? 60, 61?
44? Are you saying when Social Security started?
Yeah, like when what was the lowest date in which someone was age in which somebody was
65?
It was 65 originally.
It was? Okay.
And I'm going to look up life expectancy.
Under Lyndon B. Johnson? or under Roosevelt in 1930.
When
So
it was
those are the
adopted in
two.
1935, the average life expectancy at birth was 61 years for men and 65.
There you go.
So you died before you got it.
Exactly right.
Right.
Yeah, when Social Security first started, we at the very beginning, we had 40 plus people paying in for every person taking a benefit. And that number quickly went down to, it's been kind of 3 to 1 lately. And now we're in 2 to 1 mode. So I just think with the demographics in our country, that's nothing that's going to change. And, it's going to be difficult to have that be as impactful as it was for the generations that came before us.
Deep thoughts.
So this is a LIFO system right now, right? Which has shifted from what it was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So last in, first out is basically where we're headed here in 2035.
Right.
It worked up until Gen X, because if every generation succeeded was bigger than the one that preceded it, it worked. It truly was a Ponzi scheme in that regard.
We blew it up.
That's why when you get to 2035, where Gen X is the principal input into the system, maybe even a little bit of millennials, the trust fund legitimately is gone, and all you're funding off of is current deposits. And that's where Chad was saying, to make up that 23%, you have to increase deposits just to cash flow even with demand. And I think the better solution is raising the retirement. I mean, shoot the messenger here. Raise the retirement age. People can live and work longer now than they ever could before. We should recognize that reality, and that solves it. For you got to shorten the duration on the benefit. That's the math problem there. And so if we don't recognize that the duration could increase 20 or 30 years in the next 15 years, then it's just let it die. Just let it die. But
so taxing the rich isn't something that we should do, Nate?
we already tax the rich.
Oh, okay.
Unless you come see me, in which case I work very diligently. I mean, that's some of my cynicism here is like, okay, let's come up with another tax for the rich. It just gives me another planning opportunity to try to get the rich to plan around it. You wonder why we have 3,000 people a month moving to Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
It's exactly that sentiment that fosters that behavior.
Love it, man. Chad, any closing thoughts?
Man.
Yeah, I have two. One, don't get crazy and spend your whole lump sum when it comes in, because it's going to be taxable to you. So I think a lot of folks are already making plans on what to do with little money burning a hole in their pocket. And remember that that's going to be additional income, and you're no taxes on up to 85% of that number, which is important. Second is, if you are somebody that has never applied for or registered for Social Security because you knew the GPO and the WEP were going to eliminate your benefit, they don't know you exist. Okay, you're going to need, that is the one group that's going to need to take action. Go on to www.ssa.gov/apply. You can register, and at that point, then you'll start to receive your checks, as well as that retroactive payment. But if you don't take action, they're not going to know you're in need. So
that's a big takeaway that I hear you saying, is if you didn't bother before because you weren't eligible for anything, get on it and get registered to apply for the benefit.
Exactly right. If you're already getting it, even if you're frustrated, they're taking the axe to most of it, you're going to see a big bump, which will be nice. But for the folks that didn't register yet, they need to remember that important step.
Excellent.
Thanks, Chad.
All right. Hey, thank you, gentlemen. It was fun.
Awesome.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the discussion and the information we shared.
We hope you enjoy the information contained in today's podcast and find it useful.
We hope you will join us again next time as we explore new areas of interest to our listeners or current issues we believe are important to discuss.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you are notified when future episodes are released, and also share it with a friend that you think would benefit.
If you'd like to meet with a member of the Expert Network team or have a request for a special topic you'd like to have us discuss on the podcast, Submit those requests to info@expertnetworkteam.com. That's info@expertnetworkteam.com.
Thank you for joining us and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. We want to remind you that listening to this podcast does not establish a client-professional relationship with any of the professional firms represented, including guests, nor does it constitute legal, investment, accounting, or other advice of a fiduciary nature. The views expressed are those of the professionals only.
Investment advisor services may be provided through A&I Wealth Management. Securities may be provided through Genios Wealth Management.